All right, everyone. Broadcasting to you live from the basement of the Defense Intelligence Agency. This is CrackOps. My name is Jack, and today we're talking about Operation Monopoly.
I'm Abby.
And I'm Redacted.
Is that your real name?
No, it's not. I'm JD. I want us to use that somehow.
No, but Redacted's on his birth certificate. JD's his middle name.
My birth certificate is just a piece of paper covered in like the special redacted ink that they use.
Well, no, it's an Armenian name.
Aww.
Redacted Kardashian.
There's like the words like born or is the only thing that isn't redacted. It's just a piece of paper covered in black.
Like born, mother, father,
born,
hospital.
Mother.
Born, mother, redacted.
You have no mother, you just are.
I am redacted, son of redacted.
I am Inigo Montoya, and you killed my redacted.
I am redacted. And you redacted my redacted, prepare to redacted.
Okay, so
this is CrackOps.
I would like to thank our sponsor for today, the Central Intelligence Agency.
We love you.
We love you.
We love
Thank
your
you
products.
for the mics. Your products, fantastic.
Wonderful.
Better even than the mobile games that sponsored our last episode.
I feel like for legal reasons we should say that we're not sponsored by the CIA.
Well, it's cool. They're not.
But in many ways, they provide us with the wonderful subjects that we get to talk about.
Yeah.
Here on CrackOps.
If anything, we're advertising for them, and we should get paid.
Yeah, and thank you for the wonderful German engineering of the CIA.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Operation Paperclip.
Right.
We'll cover that later. That's a pretty good one, too.
All right, Operation Monopoly.
Operation Monopoly. All right.
Before we start, I'd like to ask, can I be the thimble?
You can be the thimble. I'll be the dog.
Can I go straight to jail?
Yeah, I don't know.
We can make that happen.
We can do that. Brad, what do you want to be?
I'll be the car. This time I'm going to choose the car.
No
I'm
one-
incarcerated.
So I guess she chose the car.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
impounded.
So for Operation Monopoly, house rules, very important. We're not using any $100 bills. You have to use 10 tens. That's because I like having the money stacks being bigger.
That makes sense.
It
And
makes
you
me
put
feel
100 on the outside.
Yeah.
With a little clip.
Everyone gets 100.
And then if someone tries to mug you, just show them the money clip and throw the Monopoly money away.
Okay, so this one today, Operation Monopoly, is actually an FBI and NSA joint op.
Oh.
And it's not CIA. However, it is in Washington. We just can't seem to escape the Eternal City. So this one has to do with embassy spying, which was a big thing during the Cold War. The U.S. and the USSR both surveilled each other's embassies. There were allegations and scandals all throughout the Cold War. During the 80s, the U.S. was building a new embassy in Moscow. And Reagan actually got so angry at the Soviets for all the shit that they had installed in it, like cameras and listening devices, that he had the top 2 floors ripped off the building when it was almost done, and then flew in American contract workers to finish the building, so that the top 2 floors would be like somewhat secure.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we were dealing with: multi-million-dollar pissing matches and scandals. You know, whenever a bug was found in someone's embassy, there'd be a big kerfluffle and some newspaper articles.
Wait, so is this why like university construction is like eternal? It's the same sort of thing, multi-million-dollar pissing matches.
Pretty much.
We need a new computer lab paved with gold. We need it.
The bio department's been spying on us. Tear the whole thing down. It's full of bugs. Wait, like listening devices? No, bugs! The insect study department let shit out.
I can hear them crawling through the walls late in the night.
Okay, so Operation Monopoly.
So the Soviets, actually during the same time period, we're talking late 70s through early 80s, also were building a new embassy in D.C. They selected a big patch of land near the Capitol building. They were going to have a lot of apartments for diplomats, and by diplomats I mean spies. That's how this works. All diplomats are spies.
Remember Iran?
Folks, have you heard of Iran?
Oof.
Yeah, and they were going to put up a new building. And the FBI decided that they were going to have some fun.
This is the new Soviet embassy.
This is the new Soviet embassy that's going to be built. We're in the 70s right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
funky bass line.
Let's get some disco. Can we edit in some disco?
Yeah, just fix that in post, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Can we get some nice disco
So we need a
biscuits?
montage where there's like a boat car, the Jackson 5, Richard
Yeah.
Nixon.
We need some Motown.
Yeah. Cut in like cocaine and then just images like
Yes,
B-roll
me
of like
saying
the Bronx
cocaine.
burning in like the late 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
All right. So the 1970s.
So we're in the 70s. The scene is set. The afros are big. The
Angel
music
dust.
is terrible, and everyone's high.
Aw.
And the
Grandmaster
FBI
Flag.
decides that they want to get in on the ground floor, literally, of the new Soviet embassy. They're going to cram this thing chock full of bugs from top to bottom. The apartments of the diplomats, the offices, just the grounds themselves. And they start by preparing the site. The new Soviet embassy is going to be built sort of in the middle of some parkland.
Mm-hmm.
So they want particular trees cut down so they can have good sight lines to where they think the buildings are going to be.
Christ.
And they bring in construction contract workers like a month before the Soviets are supposed to bring in the construction crews.
Mm-hmm.
And like in the middle of the night, they have them chop down trees, put them through wood chippers, and then like cover over all the dust with grass seed. So already off to a great start. Pretty thoroughly infiltrated.
Jesus.
It's the grass.
It's the grass.
The
Yeah,
grass.
the grass is spying on them. Cybergrass.
We even put bugs in the grass. like caterpillars or well, I mean some. Yeah.
Those are more of a tree bug.
Caterpillars are a tree bug, right?
Yeah, this is just science. So the site is prepared. The Soviets come in and they build up a bunch of diplomatic apartments. And they have to use American contractors because you can't bring, construction machinery over from the Soviet Union.
Right.
It's just a big pain. So the FBI puts people in the contractors. They,
Wait, hold on.
they put people
I
in
know
the
what you mean.
Yeah,
But
I
the
know,
way you said
yeah.
that, and coming off of Acoustic Kitty,
So the contractor yawns. The contractor yawns, and a fully formed FBI agent emerges from his mouth like Alien.
it's like the grotesque scenes from Men in Black when it's just
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah,
you're
it's
just
like
like,
peeling the
it's like,
skin
oh yeah,
off.
don't mind me. All these people are just aliens. That's the entire post office.
No, but you yawn, and then the FBI agent comes out, and he's like slimy, and he's like, "Well, I think you will see that the Soviet Union."
Why do I smell Brill cream on this construction worker? So, the FBI plants agents within the construction agencies. There, are we happy?
And you can tell who they are because all the construction workers are like chewing dip, and then there's one guy who just has a tie on under his t-shirt.
It's like that's like whenever like you could always tell when a federal government employee was traveling because they would be told to blend in, so they would always wear Hawaiian shirts, and then they'd have like a briefcase that you'd be like, it's like, who's that?
Aviators.
That's the fucking Fed because he's wearing khakis, a Hawaiian shirt, and he's walking around with a briefcase. That's the guy.
He's holding a Playboy magazine to show that he is a working class man of the 70s.
Yeah.
I'm just as vulgar as you are.
He just carries it with him.
Inside, it's just pinups of Senator McCarthy.
Oh.
Oh God.
I don't know what he looks like, so I can say
J.
that
Edgar.
and not be like cursed with that image.
There's nothing that gets us going more than just purging communists from the labor unions in Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
We'd love to see it.
oh yeah.
And just a little bit of thigh.
Ugh.
Go on. So we're contracting.
We're getting loose. We're doing some contracting and construction work.
McCarthy's thighs are going.
McCarthy is dummy thick.
He be popping.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, MK Ultra. They be popping. Like pills. Get it? 'Cause-
So McCarthy is popping his bussy all over Washington D.C.
All right, so the FBI,
No, McCarthy had drank himself to death by this point. It's the 70s.
so the FBI is they get into the landscaping business.
They get into the landscaping and construction business.
Okay.
They get agents Joe and Smith in there, and they bug every square fucking foot of the new embassy complex.
It's because they care about the Russians and they want them to be healthy because bugs have lots of protein.
Yeah, they're very good. No vitamins though. So there's this big scandal in 1980 when the Soviets find a bunch of bugs, like a shit ton of listening devices, in the diplomatic apartments.
Doesn't scandal imply it's surprising?
Yeah.
Raunchy, at least. It's like salacious, Wait, do diplomatic apartments have like diplomatic immunity from zoning laws?
Probably not.
All right, I'm gonna put on my
There's-
city planner hat.
Well, folks, we're putting a roundabout on the embassy.
I think we should put a green belt around it so
On
we
the
can't.
embassy. It's just
It's gonna be a green
pad
roof, yo.
with some-
Yeah,
No, and
mixed
so
development.
and
Mixed
so
use.
it's okay. They didn't get any.
This car's going on top of it. Around it.
Well, no, the problem is that no one knows how to drive around the mountain, so they're just like there's another traffic jam today
So
on
many
top of the
diplomats.
Azerbaijan embassy.
So many diplomats hit by cars.
First off, how do I even get up to the top of the embassy to go on that traffic circle?
Herds of
Well, you could
brain-dead
take
lanyards.
DuPont, or you could take the Polish embassy.
And you know,
Kurwa! It's so loud in here.
the diplomats are now the acoustic kitties.
Oh, jeez.
Operation Acoustic Building.
All right, so
That one's more feasible.
okay, so in the
No, so
you said
this-
in
this
the
thing is-
80s there's a scandal.
In 1980.
Okay.
And, this is the Reagan presidency, so things are getting a little bit more bellicose between the two countries. There's a little bit of, chest
Was
puffing.
Reagan elected in
measuring.
80?
I think he was elected in 80.
Okay.
Brad, can you do some?
Hey, Jamie, can we get that picture of the
Whoa,
chimp
whoa,
that has
whoa!
no
That's
hair?
probably trademarked.
I actually have a computer now, so
Yeah,
Joe
that is
Rogan's gonna go hunt you
that
down.
is what
and
we
go
wanted
inside
though.
on
We
you.
did want our fact checking
use this.
Reagan's
friend.
presidency was 1981 to 1989.
He
Okay,
was
so
elected
this was during the-
November 1980.
So this was like during his election though.
Yeah, they had been talking mad shit about the Soviet
Yeah,
Union.
but
I think
that still
always
that still helps with understand like the political climate though. This is like
Cold
when,
War was heating back up.
exactly, and America was getting more and more like, yeah, fuck yeah, look at us, we're so, oh yeah,
Everyone puff out your
I have a
chest.
body. Look at me. Fuck you, Soviets. So yeah, because
Can you edit this to make me hot?
No one.
Oh, that was my last thing I was gonna try. Okay. No, so
but like that makes that really compounds on it though. That like around this time frame when
We're getting
when,
Reagan fever.
exactly, and then this comes out that
It's
like
morning in America.
we bugged the shit out of the Soviet embassy. We just sprinkled them. They're not even plugged in. They're just there.
Like
They're
rice
on the
at a
floor.
wedding.
Like rice at a wedding. Also killing many birds.
they're gonna make those Operation Takana pigeons blow up. No, and so the Soviets get all pissed off and they're like, "Why are you doing this?" In 1978, the U.S. found a tunnel under the Moscow embassy, our embassy in Moscow.
Okay.
And it was just chock-a-block filled with listening devices and phone taps and such. So, around the same time, the U.S. began a similar program, and they called it Operation Monopoly. And the idea was to
It's
go
because
under the
Monopoly
Soviet
Man
Union.
keeps all his listening devices in his hat.
Is this a vertical integration joke? That they're literally going underneath the embassy to also bug that too?
It's a real estate joke because they have to buy a bunch of land in D.C., which we'll get into. The idea is to run a tunnel under the Soviet embassy in D.C. to get phone taps, to get listening devices on the floors of certain rooms, and so on. And so, the FBI goes in with the NSA, which is National Security
Agency.
and they're like the signals intelligence group. Their job is, listening stations, that sort of thing, radio intelligence.
Tapping your phone, spying on you, looking at your Amazon purchases.
Yeah, they know that we're doing this podcast, and they like it because it's still happening.
National Security Agency.
Boom! Look at that. Alphabet soup.
Brad strikes again. It's so hard to keep these agencies straight.
That's why every single time we say something like a not super well known one, I will try and if I know it say what it is because there's just too many damn acronyms.
Yeah, dude. So not to spoil things too much, but like the U.S. does everything possible to keep the Soviets from ever occupying the embassy, and it never gets fully completed and it never gets fully occupied.
Wait,
There's
don't they want the Soviets in the embassy so they can start listening?
No, there was this big stink about how the embassy was tall and it was on a hill overlooking the Capitol and the White House, so they could take pictures in the Oval Office or something. It was bullshit. They were just messing with the Soviets. This is an incredibly petty time in history.
Plus, I mean, actually having an embassy does kind of like recognize them.
It recognizes them as
Yeah.
legitimate, and it lets you keep a staff of thousands of people in D.C., which lets you have shit tons of KGB agents.
Yeah, and it's also it's one of the issues. It's one of the things why people that we're not on the friendliest terms with don't entirely enjoy when we have embassies in their countries.
Well, like Cuba.
Yes.
Exactly.
That was a whole big
yeah,
thing.
because what is an embassy if not a safety net for spies?
Well,
It's your soil, so if you want someone to defect, they can just go to the embassy.
And it's state-sanctioned spying, because we all know that there's going to be tons of spies in the embassies, and we know that we can't really stop that.
Yeah. So
They're on diplomatic passports, so it's not like if they turn an American against their country, we can grab that person and put him in jail. You can't get Soviet diplomats because they have immunity.
Yeah, embassies they're a big liability.
And you can't search their diplomatic bags. That's illegal. It would be a massive, massive scandal to do that. And they'd start doing it to you. So it's this tit for tat thing.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
So that actually does make sense why they would do stuff to like try and prevent it from actually being finished and occupied.
Actually, I guess, yeah.
And there's just to bug it, to make the Soviets nervous about it, to dig a fucking tunnel under it, which they'd probably find out about eventually.
They should have put actual bugs. Like
I like to imagine a bunch of FBI agents. Each of them goes and gets like a briefcase full of dirt and leaves, and there's just a line of them, and that's how they tunnel it
like
out.
identical guys with suits, like
Yeah.
carrying briefcases full of
Got
dirt.
my not dirt.
Time to go back to the business factory.
But there's still a water cooler.
No, so the FBI decides they want to dig this tunnel. And this is a $100 million boondoggle. It is a big fuck up. So, to start with, they buy real estate near the Soviet embassy. They go over, I think, to the east or something by about a block. They buy a house. This is supposed to be secret, but the problem is that the FBI is about as subtle as a sledgehammer.
Plus,
so
the government trying to acquire property from people who may not want to sell it.
Yeah, even if it's a front company, they might have had to use like eminent domain or something.
And you get a notice on official government letterhead saying, "Hey, eminent domain."
Ah, yes, the company corporation would like to buy your land. You have to sell.
The company corporation, which has been around for 2 days, but has
Incorporated
thousands of employees.
1979. We're a major real estate developer with no property and a lot of capital. Interesting. Yeah, so the feds buy a house. Everyone
Paper trail
knows
the size of a post-it note.
the feds buy this house. Everyone in the neighborhood is like, who are all of these like Mormons wearing suits, and why are 10 of them living
15
in this
Mormons
house?
live in this like house in Foggy Bottom.
Yeah, why?
Except on Sundays when they wear their Hawaiian shirts.
No, and so they're like, there's obviously guys with like telescopes up on the second floor
Why do these
looking
Mormons
out of a
have
certain
Playboy
window.
magazines?
And yet none of them have rang on any of our doors.
Interesting.
So like they're very clearly purchasing this house and doing all
This
this
is
stuff.
obviously spook shit going on. in this
They're
house.
all in trench coats. They
It
all have
is-
their binoculars
This is
out.
comical because they think that they're being very secretive.
'Cause it's
But
deep.
anyone that you talk to on the street is like, yeah, like some intelligence agency
Their stakeout.
bought a house down the street, and they were obviously using it for stakeouts. People were coming and going at odd hours. They were, look, they were dressed like FBI agents.
Yeah. Plus, it sounds like the FBI like thoroughly underestimated the nosiness and like bothersomeness of wealthy people in suburbs.
This is like a sort of, not even a suburb, it's a neighborhood in D.C. So it's even wealthier.
But, you know, if you've been in the FBI for more than 2 years, the hair gel becomes permanent. You can't wash it out.
It's part of their bulletproofing.
Those guys can headbutt through drywall.
So I
It's to
got
keep the bugs out.
I got a question.
All right.
It's part of your story that I'm sure you're about to tell us, but I want to ask this question. So they've acquired this property next to the embassy. It's very clear that the government is pulling some shit, and it's fair to assume that the Soviets are 100% aware of what's going on. At the very least, they're like, yeah, they're pulling some shit. It's not too hard to
They
tell.
know they're pulling some shit. The question is what shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how spying is, though.
So I know I know you're doing something. I just don't know what entirely, but I'm figuring it out. But they had to dig a tunnel, and the earth is made out of dirt and stuff.
Indeed.
And you know, like
That's our official
like
stance of CrackOps.
that is the official, yeah. But like per like, you know, physics and shit, two objects can't occupy the same space.
Well.
So to make a tunnel, you had to get all the dirt out. So I've got a question.
A giant dirt castle in the backyard of this house in a rich neighborhood in D.C.
Is
Like, they burrow into it to sleep. That's how you can get 15 guys to live in a tiny house.
yes, the FBI mound. That's normal.
Oh, they're like ants. They climb out of the top.
We're getting some FBI eaters coming in soon. They have long snouts. But so is this? Are you about to tell us that this is basically like that moment from Monsters Inc. where it's like using mainly spoons? We're going to,
No, even better. Using mainly incompetent contractors.
Well, they're incompetent because they're actually just FBI agents.
Yeah, spying on the other
In hard hats.
In
well,
hard
you know,
hats.
like 1970s, 1980s intelligence work. So you're telling me that like I'm really curious. How the fuck did they dig this damn tunnel?
I wouldn't have thought about that, but yeah. I answered
How did they
it.
do this? And how did they do this in a way that is close, anything remotely close to stealthily?
That's the funny part is that they didn't dig very well, and the tunnel would flood. And it also didn't really get to the embassy.
It's almost
they
like
dug in the wrong
DC
direction.
is built on a marsh.
It's a swamp. They were digging a tunnel in a fucking swamp.
God.
No one thought of this. No one considered this before they spent 100 million G's on
Oh my
it.
God.
Morons.
So
I'm imagining just like fish swimming through it.
So the reason that we know about this is because of that book that came out on the spy David Hansen. Because he had been spying for the Soviets throughout this whole period, and he was unloading information to them. And actually, he ended up spying for Russia too, from the 90s on to the 2000s. Obviously, not an ideological guy.
That's just Soviet Russia.
It's like 2% milk, 2% Soviet.
50% less satellite states, 30% more mafia influence.
Oh,
Yikes.
sad horns.
New formula. It's like new Coke.
Oh.
We like the taste.
And like New Coke, they desperately want to go back.
Yeah, this Nazbol stuff just isn't the same.
So we learned about this from this guy's book.
We learned about it from a book about this guy, because a bunch of stuff came out during his prosecution for like all the espionage that he did. And in spite of knowing of the tunnel and Operation Monopoly, we don't know exactly where it is. We think it was from this house, which is near enough to the Soviet Union and was definitely used by the feds for something.
Okay.
Well, now it's just an underground river, apparently.
And you can't find the
next-
tunnel because it's been covered over with concrete.
It's the next sinkhole just waiting to happen.
Oh, God.
Oh, because that happens. DC is an area where sinkholes happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was like last year,
Yeah,
the year
'cause it's a
before
marsh.
that. Yeah, like the George Washington Parkway was just like shut down for like I don't even know if I think it got fixed, but like it was like a thing where just like it's done. We can't use it until we fix this because a massive sinkhole just showed up.
The earth opens up and just swallows the Soviet embassy.
It doesn't. Washington D.C. foundations do not need the assistance of the federal government to destroy themselves.
Well,
They
no,
do
see,
that on their own.
They signed a contract with Northrop Grumman to subcontract the Mole Man from Incredibles to drop the Soviet Union embassy into the ground.
Return it to its mother. Return it to its mother. Return it to its mother.
No, and so we're talking about how this was like just stupid. Like they were digging a tunnel in a marsh. They didn't know where they were going. They dug like down too far, so it flooded. And so they had eventually, after a few years, because this ran from the late 70s,
I like to
through
imagine they
Reagan's
just
term.
pop up in a national museum somewhere.
They probably broke into the bottom of the Smithsonian Castle or
They
something.
pop
I don't
up in
know.
like L'Enfant Plaza and they're like, oh, we took a wrong
This
turn.
isn't Soviet.
they just go back down.
Looks like I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
No, they tunnel up into the Smithsonian, but it's an exhibit on Russia, and they're like, it worked! There's like Fabergé eggs and stuff.
They have a
Wait.
journey to the center of the earth moment when they go up into the Natural History Museum and they're like, oh my god, dinosaurs. It's true.
Da, 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 da,
License.
da.
You didn't hear that.
This is a cover, so it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so but did you just say multiple years? You said before we
It
went
took
on
them a
that.
few years. Progress was very slow because they were digging from a DC neighborhood. You can't move much earth. You can't bring in big construction equipment.
And the public hearings, I mean.
Oh my God, the licensing to dig a tunnel.
Zoning.
The homeowners association had a fucking
Fucking
embolism when
HOA.
they heard
Yeah,
about
can
this.
the federal government override the homeowners association, or is there nothing stronger than just a middle-aged woman?
I think suburban pettiness is possibly the strongest force
Honestly,
in the world.
yeah, it's like just shy of eminent domain. There is nothing stronger than like HOAs.
An unmovable object meets an unstoppable force.
Yeah,
Because HOA people, they can stack themselves on top of each other and make a larger HOA person.
they can
Voltron.
they can fucking Megazord themselves.
The original Gundam.
when the red homeowners association president, the green homeowners association president, and the purple homeowners association president come
Combine
together,
their powers.
they put the rings together.
And then they like draw some
Oh,
sort of
God.
massive sword
Yeah, they use the rings
out
to
of
draw
I don't
the
know
And they're
picket
like-
fences and shit.
And then it appears in the sky, the message, Your grass must be 1/8 of the inch long.
Your home is not in compliance with color
They form this
regulations.
giant robot, and then they just post a sign on your door.
They pick up the cars that are on blocks in front of your house and they throw them out of the neighborhood.
Your house is the wrong color.
But like, how long did they try to dig this tunnel, and when did they stop?
What was the last straw? Because this is all insane. So what could have happened that made them just give up? Like someone ran out of instant coffee, like, fuck it, we're done.
I think at some point they just used up their budget, and some manager was like, "Is this producing anything of fucking utility?" And they were like, "No,
Dirt?
we got a lot of dirt, and it's pretty wet down there."
We're housing, because DC real estate is so expensive. They actually really help those agents by giving them a mound to inhabit.
Hey, property on a hill has a better view. That's higher real estate values for the whole neighborhood. No, so eventually they just give up. Again, with these black ops and crack ops, it's hard to tell when they start and when they end.
Mm-hmm.
Government never wants to tell you that. So it ended sometime in the 80s. They just gave up. They just gave up because
I'd
it
like to
didn't
imagine
work.
it's 1988 and they're like, well, it's been 10 years and we haven't really got anywhere.
I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was like bad. So the equipment wouldn't work down there. Like it was too wet to really bring in a lot of electronics. It was hard to light it. It flooded. So eventually they filled the entire tunnel with concrete and they just sold the house. They covered it up. They sold the house. They just gave up. Now, it sounds like such a stupid idea to dig a tunnel under an embassy to plant listening equipment. But the thing is, the U.S. actually had several successful attempts at this, many of which produced massive amounts of intelligence.
Another nephew. Whoever did this was a nephew.
This is
another
we know.
nephew
Well,
project.
clearly they didn't learn from their previous lessons. They didn't bring in like the Pennsylvania boys, because there's some pretty funny history in the United States of like the one example that comes to mind immediately is like there was some like during like the siege of like Richmond or Fredericksburg or something during the Civil War. There was a Pennsylvania like company that got pinned against the wall while it was being like shelled, and they said, well, wait. We're all coal miners and mine engineers, and we're like, the munitions dump is just like 100 yards that way. Why don't we just spend the next 2 weeks and dig a fucking tunnel? And it worked.
They should have just gotten German defectors to dig.
German defectors are known for their tunneling capabilities.
Yeah.
Germans, they actually have this special stuff on their nose that looks like a star, and it helps them sense the edges of their little tunnels.
Just like people from Pennsylvania.
No, so speaking of Germany, we
Or the
actually...
scoop-like hands.
Mole people. No, so the CIA dug a tunnel under the Berlin Wall. Well, the Berlin Wall wasn't there in the 50s. Into East Berlin to bug Soviet intelligence, like headquarters in the city. They got under the building, they found the phone lines, and they tapped them. Which was a just absolute intelligence coup. They got everything that was going on in the city. So there was some basis to think that this would work.
But plot twist, Berlin is not built on a marsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually it is. They had to drain a marsh to build Berlin.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
There's like a pipe network that keeps it from flooding.
The nicest, flattest places for building capitals often end up being marshy.
Yeah.
You need a good water source, and that tends to, But like,
Did they just swim through the... I like to imagine they're just breaststroking through the tunnel. They're like, the Stasi can't catch us underwater.
Row your boat.
See, that's what's funny is that just there's so many times in history you can look back where people have tried to like, I have a great idea. This is my brilliant tactical decision. We'll dig a tunnel and that will solve our problems.
It
And
never works.
there's never been like and it was okay.
Yeah, it's either a
yeah.
rousing success
Yeah.
or you end up
Or
with
it's
like a
like,
bunch of FBI
We
spooks drowning
spent
in a tunnel.
we spent like 5 to 6 years and $100 million and it's
To get across
20
the
yards.
street.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
20
yeah.
yards and it's filled with water.
It's like it's slanting down. It's in the wrong direction.
I have like the vaguest ghost of a memory of some people from DC telling me that they think they're tunnels because they're like, yeah, we heard like, shaking and drilling underground. And I wonder if it was this or something similar.
Oh, probably something
Because
similar.
there's so many just little anecdotes I barely remember, but I hear offhandedly about people being like, yeah, we're pretty sure the government's doing something under our house.
But there's also like, because of just the ground that DC is built on, there are a lot of issues with buildings sinking and them having to go in and fix that. And that's a thing that like, and yes, it might be the government doing it, but it's not. It's a different 3-letter acronym than you think. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not the FBI, the CIA, the NSA.
It's the Army Corps of Engineers.
It's the fucking GSA. It's the Government Services Agency.
Oh.
No,
who's-
I'm imagining it's like the house, you hear this horrible creak, and it sinks 3 inches, and you're like, it's the CIA.
Oh,
like-
those
like-
darn CIA moles are under here again.
like my grandfather worked for the GSA for during like the 40s to, I don't even know when he stopped.
My
but, like,
condolences.
no, he was. This is. You know, he was one of the people who actually like could get things done on time and under budget, which was a
my
rarity.
God.
Yeah, I know, right?
Jesus, truest
Under
contemplate.
budget.
I know, it's bizarre. But like a lot of the stories that he has, aside from like accidentally poisoning a bunch of squirrels that were like on the National Mall back when the National Mall was full of like Navy buildings, or like, I don't know, like the stuff that happened with like Ed Nixon's West Coast West Wing thing, was like the fact that so many times
That
buildings
sounds
would
like a
start-
really bad Beach Boys album.
It does, right?
Nixon's West Coast West Wing.
It does, right?
Tricky
But,
dick.
like, but, like,
Imagine him on a surfboard.
but he had like a mansion in California, and and because it was government property when he was in charge.
Oh, that
The
sounds
government
not
had
legal.
GSA had it just happens. Like when your home when you're president becomes fortified by the Treasury Department, so
Okay.
GSA has to do stuff there. But one of the many stories he told us about is the many times when buildings like would just start to fucking sink, and so they had to go in and fix the foundations on like the State Department.
I imagine
all
a
this
dwarf
shit.
who's like has a crank and he cranks the building up again. Like, oh yeah, another
But
one's hit the
that's
dust.
basically what it is. Just like minus the dwarf.
Hey, Gimli, get over here.
But like that's what building in DC is that.
This
oh.
is an architecture podcast.
This is now an urban planning, federal contracting, and architecture podcast.
When
But-
our personal lives go into work.
SMH.
Like,
Unprofessional.
But that's like what you're saying with like the anecdotes of like people being like, I think the government's building under my house. They probably are, but it's probably not a secret op. It's
Well-
just we built our capital on a swamp and it's all
We're trying to
still
stop this.
sinking.
Well, the problem is that they stabilized the swamp, in the 1800s. But the goddamn FBI keeps building all of these crisscrossing tunnels under the ground, and it's making the whole thing
it's
sink.
just Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, dude, I bet it looks like Swiss cheese. On there, for sure. Absolutely.
It's like the cross section ant farms you can get. And it's just like
Well, that's what Paris looks like under.
There's
all
just
the
a bunch of
chaos.
Yeah,
feds under
yeah.
there with pickaxes
but like
going
yeah, no,
crazy.
it's like yes, the
Guys,
Jefferson
I know
Memorial.
how to fix this. We need to turn all these flooded tunnels into log flumes.
Ooh.
One giant log flume.
What is a log flume?
You ever ride a log flume? It's where you
Brad,
go,
do
you
you know
get
what
in
a
the
log
little
flume
boat.
is?
Is this like
the roller
Splash Mountain
coaster.
at Disney?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool,
but it's like you get in the log-shaped boat and you
Hell
go
yeah,
up
let's
and
do
splash
that.
down.
You can
Yeah.
charge people for it. It would be revenue.
And you just tell the story of, I don't know, like you just like the story they tell during Splash Mountain is like, oh, we're gonna go get that evil guy. It's like, oh, we're gonna try and find the Soviet embassy.
we don't
We
know.
never do.
We don't-
Wow,
Hey.
take a picture.
How do we get to Alexandria?
Do you guys hear water?
At one point in time, like the raft just gets like bubbled up, and you just like boom, you just end up in the Potomac. You dock in Roslyn, and that's it. That's the end of the ride.
In Baltimore.
Oh shit! How do we end up here?
What the fuck?
That was a really quick ride.
Whoa, jeez.
We should use these for public transit. Metro could buy them, and they could put in.
It
more
would start
cars.
at the house that's totally not inhabited by 15 FBI agents.
FBI bunkhouse.
Yeah.
Well, no, they don't live in the house. They live in the,
The
dirt
hill,
mountain
right.
house.
I like to imagine them crawling out on all fours.
Yo, can you guys imagine? Like a frat house or a bachelor pad house where it's just ratty and shitty, and there's like nude posters.
It's
on
like
the
a
wall?
it's like a low key meth den.
Imagine that, but with feds. Imagine like 8 feds crammed into a 5-man house, and they have to like live there.
Oh,
Can you
God.
imagine what
Is
that
that
would
our
be
new
like?
sitcom?
It'd probably be no different, honestly.
Yeah.
Just all the
No,
same.
but there would be like, I feel like maps with a bunch of red lines on them, and then also Sexy McCarthy.
Sexy McCarthy, Bibles, a lot of Bibles.
Yeah.
Bibles, thick thigh.
Way too many ashtrays because I have to burn stuff all the time.
Like a trash can that has burn marks all over it.
Yeah.
Oh, just something for a hobo fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like an oil barrel.
They have a
He's just
poster.
constantly burning with classified material.
Hey man,
They got a poster of McCarthy, and he's got like his suit on, but like he's unbuttoned it just a little. He's got a little nipple showing.
Oh, McCarthy's nipples.
he's got his hand up, and
Yeah.
it's like a list. And it's none of the people that they actually made at state. It's all of
yeah.
the artists that they jailed.
It would say at the bottom, "Babe, are you on my list?"
uh,
And all the neighbors think they're always hotboxing, or because you just see smoke coming out of the windows, and they're like, "Oh, that's some frat house. It's like 15 guys, and there's always smoke." But it's just the documents.
Folks, we burned the documents.
The water bill is through the roof, and I think we all know why.
Well, no, obviously they have a well. A really, really big, expensive well.
They don't have a well. They dug a well.
They dug
accidentally.
They dug it. It's horizontal and it has no water.
America's first horizontal well.
Yeah, they published a white paper afterwards detailing their success in horizontal well drilling. And that was the product of this stupid program.
That's like one of my favorite things you can do for like move the goalpost on a project being successful.
Oh, yeah.
Is you say like
It was supposed to be a log flume.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to get from DC to Baltimore.
Exactly.
One way.
It's like oh, I can't remember the specific reference, but there was some like government TV show I was watching, and they were testing like a missile defense system, and the whole thing is that like they miss. They missed the target missile by like over 100 miles in space. But the tagline that they come back with is like, but we met 9 out of 10 criteria. And it's like the last one being that you missed. And it's, and you know,
90% success.
Exactly. And it's,
So funded.
It's a thing that you 100% see a lot in like engineering work and in projects and construction. It's like,
hell, in medicine, like with Viagra. Viagra was a heart drug that just happened to give you an erection.
yeah. Well, but the difference there is it's like
the
an
goalpost.
accidental discovery. This is like padding your failure.
So you're saying this is just the big erection of DC, the big underground.
That would definitely be the Washington Monument.
That's 100%.
We're just going to use that pun now.
okay.
We're not
Yeah,
going to say
no,
it
Alright.
later.
the Bill Clinton monument.
Yeah,
I know.
Oh, hey guys, they should paint it black and it can be the Obama Monument.
Mine's bigger.
They should raise it 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know that
I'm so fucking funny,
So I
guys.
think they started construction on it in like the 1848 or so for like the Washington Monument, and then the Civil War came, and then they stopped about a third of the way up, and then when the Civil War ended, they started building it again.
Wasn't it with like a different material?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the stones
you
are
can see
the
it.
stones are
Really?
slightly different, and you can see a change in color about a third of the way up.
Architecture podcast.
And this is my favorite part. This is a little fun fact. The top of it is capped with aluminum, because when it was finished, aluminum was really expensive because it was really hard to process, and like not super
So
long
it's wearing
after.
an aluminum foil hat.
It's wearing exactly. It's
Oh
wearing
my God.
it's wearing an aluminum foil hat. But the kicker is, a couple of years after they did that, the new method of like the more closer to the modern version of like extracting aluminum was invented, and aluminum became very cheap.
So what you're saying is that metallurgy and architecture and urban planning is where we're going to end up with this every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Okay, cool.
That's
good to know.
Disclaimer.
That's what I know.
Yeah. So to get back on track, there's a couple more things. The Navy actually had great success tapping phone lines, like mostly not by tunneling. They actually used submarines for this one, so it was supposed to be flooded.
A mobile tunnel.
What? Yeah, a submarine is a mobile tunnel.
Well, the submarine wasn't supposed to be flooded.
Yeah, I worked that is
Actually,
true.
submarines flood their ballast tanks to fall underneath
Well,
the
that's how
ocean.
they take a bath.
Can
they
confirm.
Just once a week they flood the sub, and then all the soldiers get out their bar soap.
Can you believe you used to be they used to have smoking on submarines?
Whoa, what?
That's a fucking
Oh yeah,
thing.
I think
they
Dad
had,
mentioned.
and they had,
You're
they
not
did,
smoking.
and you had to. They designed special ashtrays that would break into dull pieces in case you get hit by a fucking torpedo. Because the last thing you want when you get hit by a
Oh my
torpedo
God.
is like your ashtray to shatter.
Can you
into
imagine?
sharp pieces?
A woman gets a letter and a flag. She has someone come to her door with a flag, and it's like, "I'm sorry, your husband has died. His submarine was attacked by a torpedo." And she's like, "Oh, he died valiantly protecting his country." An ashtray landed in his heart.
But but the thing is, like, they wouldn't tell it. They should just be like, you don't know that your husband's on a sub. He's just gone most of the year. And then one day it's like,
Oh,
yeah,
they know.
he died. And it's like, yeah, what a valiant death he must have had. And he just got bumped into, and the thing broke.
Like his femoral artery just got
Yeah,
severed.
it was just it was a horrible
He
accident.
sat on an ashtray that was left on his seat. It cracked and like cut his leg.
I mean, safety regulation is written in blood, so
That's her concept album.
someone had to realize, shit, when we're in our mobile tunnels under the water, we kind of shouldn't have random shards of glass.
So if safety regulations are written in blood, then every workplace accident is kind of a sacrifice to OSHA to make them more powerful.
Yes. OSHA is fueled by blood sacrifice.
So the Navy used their funky mobile tunnels in which you could probably still smoke back in these days, apparently. And they found the Soviet undersea communication cables used by the Red Navy is what it was called.
Okay.
Which is stupid. It should be a blue Navy because water is blue. And they actually got a submarine down there with some divers.
That sounds like a 90s boy band, we're the Red Navy.
So they got the submarine down there. They put some divers out of it, and they tapped the phone lines used by the Soviet Navy. And they got everything that these guys sent for their Pacific Fleet for like 20 years. Then they did it again to a different cable, but the Soviets found that one.
No.
Foiled.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, again, with these CrackOps, sometimes it works. They're doing this stuff for a reason. They think it'll work this time, and they're wrong.
Now, question. These tunnels under DC are made by the government, right?
Hopefully.
And the government, would you agree they have boats?
The government does, in fact, have a number of boats.
Okay, they have a number of boats. Now, would you agree
The
that the
Department of the
tunnel...
Navy.
Department of the Navy.
They're all boats.
Would you agree...
There's a whole boat department.
would you agree that the
boat
tunnel
yard
is
in DC.
flooded? Yes. Would you
Most
agree?
of their boats can't fit in tunnels because they're very big.
Now,
I've
would
seen
you
them.
would
They're
you
large.
agree that it's easier to make something smaller than it currently is than bigger than it currently is?
I would disagree with that.
I would
Shut
say
up.
maybe shrink.
No.
Redacted. Redacted.
Podcast in jail. Let me out. No, if you have the shrink ray that they're hiding at Roswell, then
Yeah. So, would you agree that the Navy could
Sure.
put a small boat in this tunnel so we could float on over to the Ruskies
like a bathtub destroyer.
and put a glass up to the ceiling
Like Splash
and
Mountain?
listen?
The federal law. Thing.
It's a spy network. Why? Like that's why there's the camera at the end.
What if they just put on scuba gear and walk
And
through the tunnel?
That's stupid.
It's
That's
one of the
lame,
reasons
dude.
why it's revenue
don't need the
neutral is that
flippers.
you can buy your photo at the end.
No, East German swimmers. Everyone knows that they can swim for hours and hours without oxygen.
What?
The Stasi gave them gills.
Operation Gilstasi,
Oh god.
which we'll cover later.
Is that really a thing?
No.
You can't even tell with them.
Thank God.
Although the Soviets definitely did try to breed humans and girls because they thought that Darwinism was bourgeois. That's actually true.
Oh yeah, they had the guy who thought
They had
that
that idiot Lysenko guy who like fucked up the harvest because he thought that like dialectical materialism applied to like plants or something, and that you could evolve plants by like class struggle or something like that.
he said something about how a dog could give birth to kittens if it knew
Yeah.
that that's what the universe needed.
Yes.
And I'm like, that sounds like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, but Stalin liked him, so he got to do whatever he
Stalin
wanted.
is Gwyneth Paltrow confirmed. Please sue us.
Please don't.
I don't think Stalin is going to sue us.
I don't know, man.
Gwyn.
At this point, if you told me that Stalin was alive somewhere in some sort of half-flooded FBI tunnel, I might believe you.
Eat, pray, Stalin.
No, Stalin's been using essential oils. They've been rubbing the essential oils on him and Lenin. So Lenin, that embalmed corpse, coming back. It's true.
You know, I want to know his skincare regimen. That was Stalin right there.
Hello, Stalin.
We're all waiting for Stalin.
But it seems like the big like major differential between like what becomes a crack op and what becomes a black op is just, did they actually think it through? Not even all the way, like
Halfway.
more than 2/3 of the way.
How many nephews
Does it sound
were
like a
involved?
Three Stooges
Yeah.
skit?
Like that's that.
This could be a Three Stooges skit. They fucked up building the tunnel. And then
What's
they
the
fought
weight?
it.
What's the weight percent of nephews in this project?
It has a critical mass of nephews.
if you go above 20 nephews by weight percent.
No, so
Guys,
you know.
when you do the research for this stuff, you have to figure out how many nephews were involved.
Well, it's tough
As a
because everyone
percentage
is
of the
someone's
total
nephew.
mass.
It's just
Well,
that
you
some
can have 100 lightweight nephews, but only like 50 heavier nephews.
is steel heavier than nephews? Is a pound of steel heavier than a
I
pound of
told
nephews?
you about this.
An I-beam of steel or an I-beam of nephews?
I had a dream.
We've done it. We've synthesized nephionium.
I mean, against
the world's flakiest
normal loads, steel. Against bureaucratic loads, the nephews win.
Well, it sounds like a weird old-timey unit back when we used, like, guilders and how many hands long is this?
Yeah.
How many
tons?
nephews is this in weight? How many guineas is
How
in
many
a
nephews
nephew?
is this project?
Wait, how many cups are in a gallon? How many gallons are
Or
in
in
a
a
nephew?
nephew.
And you know, on the can of beer where it says like 5% ABV, it's like this project was 5% in BV, nephews by volume.
But that's why these topics are always going to come back to like construction and engineering and planning and stuff, because that's where shit always hits the fan.
Yeah,
You're right, because the concepts, you can have, like, they had a great idea, I guess, but they couldn't do it physically.
Yeah, like ultimately on paper, how are we going to spy on the Soviets?
Yeah, we've done it before.
One of the things we're going to do is we're going to dig a tunnel and we're going to use that to access, and they won't know.
Yeah.
And that's not crazy. What's crazy is how are you going to do it? Well, we're going to make a big stink while we buy a house, and then we're going to not hire anyone who knows how to fucking dig tunnels.
We're going to dig through a marsh that's densely populated.
We're going to forget that we're in the nation's capital and that it's
Yeah.
built on top of a marshland.
and we're gonna have to dig like a quarter mile.
yeah, and we bought a house way too far away.
Everything sinks.
We forgot
yeah,
distance.
why
It's
did
not
they-
even that far away. I've seen a couple of sites. There were several houses that might have been used for this. Mm-hmm. I've seen maps with these, and like it's not that far.
So wait, someone could live in the tunnel
There are people
house
who've
and not
dug
know
longer tunnels from fucking jail to escape than this.
Yeah.
Because I know if someone's murdered in your house, like the real estate agent has to tell you. If your house was used for a crack op, do they have to tell you?
Yeah.
Is some kid
hope
gonna
so.
find a trap door that goes just like a bunch of concrete?
Like your house is haunted by the ghosts of government fuck-ups.
They hear rumbling, but it's just the house collapsing
It's just-
into the tunnel. It's not ghosts.
Oh,
Hey, where's the cat? What?
Hold
Is that
on.
coming from the floor?
where's the cat? Hold on, let me put on the headphones.
Oh.
It sounds like
Why do I smell
Can
smoke?
Mom, the cat's on fire. Looks like the battery's breached.
So when did this come to light to the public? When did this get FOIA'd?
Let me check my comprehensive page and a half of double-spaced notes. It was when Robert Hansen, the Soviet spy,
Bobby H, yeah.
when our friend Bobby H, our good boy, was prosecuted in the early 2000s, when they like finally found this guy.
So they prostituted Bobby H, and
They
then we
pros-
got the information.
Yes, they prostituted him. That was his punishment. It's awful.
Oh no.
No, they prosecuted him, and this stuff came out in FOIA documents. And
Okay.
so we found out about this in the early 2000s.
okay.
And it's kind of a piece of DC trivia. There are people who are like, yeah, the tunnel was definitely from my neighborhood.
Everyone claims the tunnel.
Everyone reps the tunnel.
Now, I could use my mad GIS skills to find the tunnel underground.
That's not how satellites work.
Shut.
They
Shut.
can't see under stuff.
You know what we could
No
do?
more tears,
You,
this is
you could do. You could do this. I learned a couple months ago how seismology measurements are done. Like there was. I was
Yeah,
like,
they use a ruler.
how
big is it?
I was just doing a
What's
thing.
the size?
Fuck you. I was doing it. It was just something about something because it was like there's like a NASA mission to I think it's like Europa or something. One of the moons of one of the planets that has
Oh,
like
that's
ice
like
on it.
6 hours in a plane.
Yeah, exactly. But
That was because Europe is 6. Yeah.
But the whole thing was that like how they do it is they have like their sensors that measure the vibrations, and then someone takes a hammer
Yeah, they just hit the
they
ground.
just smack the ground.
They just use a sledgehammer.
And exactly, they just use like a 10-pound sledge, and you could theoretically do this in people's backyards and just fucking find the tunnels because you should get a different.
Now I have a
sound.
better method. You guys ready? A divining rod.
Ah, yes, we could douse it because it's full of water.
Yeah, it's full of water, so we can just get some folksy old man named Johnny Hazard O'Hara to
Find our magic Negro.
Yeah.
My name's Dougal McDougal. I'm the diviner you hired for the day.
Oh no.
$12 an hour.
Well, okay, the Scots can't do divining rods because the whole place is just covered in water.
That's how golf was invented.
It's scrambled.
I can hit this walnut with me divining rod.
So they were looking for something. The guy smacked a rock, and it just kind of went flying into a gopher hole. He's like, "Hey, that was fun. What if we do that for 18 more times?"
What if we do this 18 times and we drink and wear stupid clothes while we do it?
This is now a Scottish hate podcast.
See, but I don't know.
we don't hate the Scots. We like them.
we like.
We like their funny
Just
voices.
staying on this tangent, I really would like to know what happened if you took the Scots who invented golf and you showed them how it's like viewed and done now. They would probably they'd probably throw a fit. They'd be like, "What the fuck? Like, why are you talking so quietly? Why are you clapping? Where's the beer? Where's the drinking? Where's the revelry?"
I mean, you are just hitting a ball aggressively with a stick.
Yeah, it's just like
And you
you're
don't even
just
know where it's
supposed to
going.
go out with your mates all day and get fucking drunk and whack balls with sticks.
If you can get the last hole in less than 8 to 10 hits, you're doing it wrong.
Like they'd probably
You're
more
too sober.
they'd probably be more okay with putt than they would be with actual golf.
Oh no, everyone likes putt putt though.
Yeah.
That's kind of like
It's just flaying yourself before like the
So
altar
speaking of
failure.
tunnels, oh my
Speaking
god,
of flaying yourself before the altar of failure, operate.
Speaking of just Titanic failures over and over again. Yeah, these morons, they fucked up digging a tunnel. People at Alcatraz have done this. People in German POW camps during World War II did this.
corgis can do it.
Corgis can do it. There are several species of animal that do nothing but dig tunnels.
Oh my god, what if they did Acoustic Kitty but with moles? And they just had millions of moles that they trained to like go in a straight line.
We have used our German scientists that we took from Germany after World War II to breed a race of mole men. We have unleashed them on the Soviet embassy.
Just moles though.
That's it, guys. That's what we do. We need to take a page out of Avatar: The Last Airbender's book and make badger moles, because those things can earthbend, and we'll just use those to dig tunnels.
Or they could just get Mole from Atlantis, and he could dig all the tunnels.
Yeah.
We could get Mole from Atlantis, but are we
Doesn't-
on good diplomatic relations with the French right now?
I don't think he represents the French.
I think he
was
runs a
pretty-
company,
yeah, he
so
was-
he's a private contractor.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
yeah.
obviously they could have just made drill hats and just gone straight through and put all their stuff up.
Again,
but
we should
Mole
write
did
the
come
grant.
What was the
massive
name?
Drill, so
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
what was the name of the guy? The guy who was like the demolition expert.
Oh,
He was like
Was it Gustav?
I think
Oh,
maybe,
it was
but
Gustav.
the guy with like the mustache, like the broom
yeah.
the broom handle mustache. He was just kind of like it took them
Dale.
thousands of years to build this. Hey, look, I made a bridge in 3 seconds.
I think all of the characters that we don't know the name of from now on are Dale.
Dale.
I think that's a
They're all
real
just
they're all
Dale?
Dale.
I think that we should kneel at the altar of Dale and flay ourselves.
So
And then-
that's what we're doing this weekend, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. When we're trespassing into unsuspecting DC residents' houses
Can I check your basement?
to hit their basement with a big hammer.
Excuse me, Federal Basement Inspector, FBI. But
by the rule of internet domain, I'd like to look in here.
okay, that's pretty good.
Just
2 points to Gryffindor.
someone's like, "Do you have a warrant?" And you'd be like, "I have a Warren," and just you and Warren Buffett go in and start hitting the ground with.
Well, there might be a warren under your house, so we're finding out.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, do we have a warrant for this warrant?
So the FBI in this case did a job that moles could do, but
Yes.
they didn't do it.
They fucked up being moles.
They fucked up being moles.
Sad. Yeah,
This is pretty great.
it's
I don't know why, but tunnels are always hilarious. I
they're
don't,
funny because it's like you said, they either work really, really well and they
They're
ace it.
abject-
It's like the
they're-
Berlin
yeah.
one, or it's like this.
I
They're-
think it's
they're-
like we're not supposed to be there. Just when we're in space, underwater or underground, that's just the places we're not supposed to be. So
Yeah,
anything we
fair
do
enough.
there is wacky.
Yeah, it's part of it is just a thing like the human sense of direction. Like you sit down,
Yeah.
you sit a person down, and you're like, "Where are you?" Well, even if they don't know where they are, they're like, "Well, I see that object and that object and that object."
Door's there.
Yeah, and then like you put someone on like the ocean, and you're just like, "So where are you?"
No, but
I
the
don't,
ocean.
I don't fucking know.
It's the same thing as this tunnel. No excuses. We have a compass.
Right, but you know,
You can dead reckon.
but there wasn't room in that for the budget.
There was room for several extra nephews that would have
Yeah.
been spent on compasses.
Yeah.
They needed more interns.
Now, do you think they measured the distance by nephews? Like they had the nephews lay straight, like one in front of the other?
How long is the tunnel now? Well, we're going to reach the embassy at 45 nephews.
What is this nephew doing at my doorstep?
It's like the smoot
Hello.
measurement. Have you guys heard of that?
The what?
The smoot
Oh,
measurement.
yeah, the smoot.
It's a thing
Oh,
from
yeah.
it's a thing from MIT where they measured
Yeah.
a bridge by
You
they
can use
got
that on
their
ArcGIS.
yeah, it's technically speaking an official measurement. I think that the National Institute of Standards and Technology has made that like it's official. It's not used for anything, but like they recognize it or something. Yeah.
I can.
The-
I've
Are we
made a
using
map.
metric?
for those who don't know, it's basically is a guy from MIT whose name is Schmoot. I think he was like a mathematician or something. He actually ended up working for the National Bureau of Standards later, which became NIST, which is now in national. Yeah. So
We're just adding more acronyms.
the whole exactly alphabet soup. It's great. So the whole thing is that one day, the story as I understand it is he was very drunk and he was walking back from something with some of his friends. He
Frat party or
passed
something.
out. Frat party, 100%. And they just decided, wouldn't it be hilarious if we measured the length of this bridge over the Charles River by taking our friend here, Smoot, and putting him like flipping him end to end, and it was like 34 smoots in an ear. And a smoot is now a measurement. It's like 5 feet 7. Like Brad, you can look this up. It's a thing. It's like 5 feet 7 inches and something like that.
If it had been anywhere but MIT, a smoot would be like 6'1".
Oh.
But-
I vaguely remember making a map of England using smoots.
You know,
I think that
5 feet
exists.
7 inches.
like 3/4 or something.
One smoot is equal to Oliver Smoot's height at the time of the prank.
Yep. And I can't remember what bridge it was, but I'm pretty sure that if you go to the bridge that they did it on, they actually have lines there for the different smoots.
Funny.
We're going down the Smoot Bridge, boys.
Oh yeah.
All right, get your smoot measurers out. We're doing some digging today.
So, closing thoughts.
I'm not a big thinker.
Tunnels are either apparently incredibly hard or
Who
very
have
easy.
brain?
Tunnels are a land of contradictions.
Yeah.
Some tunnels good, some very bad.
Don't tunnel under a swamp, or if you do, have gills.
Use a pump to remove the water. It's what people do.
Yeah.
But where do you put the water then?
Somewhere else.
Back
Make
in
a
the
fountain.
What?
swamp. Back in the swamp.
Make a fountain.
I think we should just flood the other embassies we don't like with the water.
Oh, yeah,
Save that water for a rainy day.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Make it
This
rain.
is.
Yeah.
It's not as outlandish as Acoustic Kitty or some of these
It's
other
pretty
projects we've
goofy
talked about, but
because
it's just
they're
like
trying
stupid.
so
They
hard
fucked
to
it
do
up.
a basic task and they
It
just
also
can't.
They
brings
tried
up
so
a lot
hard.
of other like comedic things that people have done. The whole issue of tunnels. Why the fuck can't some people figure them out?
Yeah, some people
Just
very
dig
good.
a hole.
The Soviets, very good. They dug a successful one under the American embassy. We found out and we're like,
We
I have
can
an
do
idea.
this.
That's what's funniest about this though is they were like, hey, the Soviets did it. Why can't we?
I'm not owned. I'm not owned.
5 years later, why can't we?
Oh man.
Any closing thoughts, Brad?
No.
There are things we know, but there are also the ones we don't know.
I welcome this kind of examination.
The power of the presidency doesn't rest here.
Covert operation.
Grave danger to the civilized world.
You deserve the truth.